So, does everybody in the room understand the concept of transition or transition network?
I'm just going to say this is new to me.
Brilliant.
So I'm just going to say I don't know anything. That's the best way.
I'm always going to assume that everybody knows nothing, because I find you go in the room assuming people know stuff. We generally find out someone's too scared to ask the question, so thank you for being so bold to say that. Okay, in that way, if I was trying to explain transition, as I did in my TED talk, I started using, is it Eric Carlisle who did The Hungry Caterpillar? Yeah? So I like that as a kind of explanation. So to me, community and population is sort of the caterpillar, or the hungry caterpillar, and it's going through life, kind of through desire, absorbing resources in a way, if we want to use that. We see it as food in the book, absorbing resources, doing what it wants, and not necessarily thinking about the sort of the consequences of that. And as it's going through, its desires and its wants increase. It starts eating more and more and more, and taking more and more. But there is a point in that story in which it realises, actually, I need to change, I'm ready to change, and it stops. And to me, transition is kind of beginning there. It's that stopping and realising we can't necessarily go on the same way we've been going, and we can't keep absorbing all of those resources in the same way that we have, so we need to do something about it. So for the caterpillar, it forms the cocoon. I wish I could do that for the whole society, and that would be quite messy, but the idea of that cocoon, that pause, inside that cocoon, that caterpillar has dissolved itself. It's forming into something new, and it's not quite sure where it's going to go with that. We all know it's going to come out a beautiful butterfly or moth or something like that, but we're not sure what colour it's going to be. So it's kind of forming itself, and in that, again, I see that is the transition network. It's that kind of moment where we're trying out things to see what will work, what can we do differently, how can we get more people involved, how can we get the community to think about things in different ways, maybe do something in a different way, how can I change what I do in my personal life, how I use resources, how I impact and affect people, how I communicate with people, how I connect with others. And the transition network kind of is quite honest in the sense of saying we don't have all the answers. We're just people trying to do something. But the key thing about it is we're not just doing it on ourselves or by ourselves. We're trying to say to you and everybody else around, we're going to be stronger and we're going to be able to impact more if we collaborate and do more together. Now there's loads of amazing projects and organisations out there doing stuff. In fact, this year, there's even more suddenly sprouting out the ground. We've got the Activist Cafe, is that, am I right? The something coalition, Pat, what is your involved People's Coalition?
Cardiff
Coalition. So apologies, not
Cardiff
People's Assembly. Adam, is it Adam?
Yes, yeah.
After Facebook always saying, Adam's involved a lot in sort of political and people power, and lots of sort of vocal sort of things for advocation for other people. Not that it's this year, I know you've been doing it for a long time, but I'm seeing more and more of these kinds of activities in the media. There's a repair cafe just started being talked about. Urbanistas have really taken force with talking about, I should know, I'm not meant to be involved in it. What's not the swap shop kind of concept? It's kind of like where you share out the resources, so instead of everybody buying a drill, Library of Things, thank you. I just had an email about it. Having been in a youth workshop for a couple of hours, my head is a little bit spinning with trying to get people doing woodwork and an activity to get the project finished by 6 o'clock tonight, which was a little bit hectic. So I'm not fully with all my memory and stuff like that, and that's my weakness. So that people who know me will know that I have a memory problem, a short-term memory problem, but I work around it using people to help me. So I'm happy to share my problems with you.
We'll help you, Sam.
Thank you. But coming back to it all, it's knowing that we do need to make a difference. We're not sure exactly what that difference is going to look like. We're not sure how we're going to get there, but we realise whether we believe in climate change or not is irrelevant in my arguments or conversations with you. It's about realising we need to do something different in our society, in our communities. One, because I feel I'm not always connected that well with people. I used to live on streets and not know my neighbours. I had to walk my chickens up and down my street to get my neighbours to come out of the house thinking, who is this crazy guy, and to finally get them to meet me, because I didn't know them. Whereas I was brought up in rural Wales where I knew everybody in the hamlet, everybody knew us, and if there was an emergency, someone could knock on anyone's door and be there to help each other. Whereas these days we've got that little bit of fear factor. I know I'm in a city now, but it's really important to know that you can connect with your neighbours, you can connect with people of similar interests, of similar passions. And Cardiff Transition's about maybe connecting people of passions, finding a way to work together, connecting groups and people doing amazing stuff in the city, celebrating it, sharing it with others, using our networks to maybe get more people involved, and really coming together to try and do a collective force. It's not a membership group. You're not somebody who is in transition because you come to a meeting. Whatever you are doing, however little it is for you, don't judge yourself by what other people do. You think, like, they're amazing, they do so much, how do they fit that all in? That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me and your journey in transition is do what you can, when you can, as much as you can, for as long as you can. Don't burn yourselves out. Don't try and do too much. Do what you can and what you can contribute. And connect with others, because together we can make that effort or that energy span out more. Many of us have suffered with burnout in the room, and I really appreciate seeing on the website that little link in with Sophie Banks about her talk on from Cardiff Transition Network about burnout. The link didn't work, but we'll work on that one, we'll get it in there. It went to the wrong page, they changed it. But it was really important to see that, celebrating people's energy and their contributions, however little or however big, is important to make people feel valued. There's many people in this room today who've been there from the beginning and have worked through the history of transition, seen it changed. We've got Pat, who's been within the group longest. We've got Lewis, we've got myself, Cody, Paulos, Mike's been dipping in and out, Nigel with social media, he's relentless. Even in the years where Cardiff Transition dipped in sort of public activity, it never dipped in social media. Forever I'm getting emails saying someone's posted on Cardiff Transition, so thank you very much, Nigel, for all of that effort over the years. And continued effort, even though he said he wasn't going to do it anymore, I still see loads of tweets and social media posts. So forever, everybody is appreciated in here. And I was going to do the history, but I've realised on our website it's a fantastic sort of clip of our history over the years. But I think the interesting bit is what's happened over the last few years, why we haven't had that constitution come to fruition, why we haven't moved forwards with funding. And that's partly because, as a core group, we're all volunteers. And as you start meeting and talking and doing stuff, you kind of get excited about projects. And then different things come up and you kind of go off in your different angles and your different avenues. And some of the amazing things that's come from, and I touched briefly with them, was the Roundhouse group. You know, we got Pat and Lewis and Nigel, who are part of a collective who decided they wanted to buy a parcel of land, protect it, try some old skills, try some new skills, develop their interest in the land, in the woodland and in the field. And that's amazing, the fact that some of those members came from the core group, some from the wider network. We've had, in fact, Palagain is part of a Cardiff co-housing group. And they took more energy, Pat, I'm going to praise you a lot here, but they went from an idea of talking about creating a location where people can come together, maybe live in a slightly different way, and they realised maybe their concept wasn't necessarily working, and forgive me if I get the details a little bit wrong, wasn't 100% going to work in that way in Cardiff, and so they actually changed it and started moving into a certain area of Cardiff, so more people moved in that area who wanted to try that. And I don't know how it's going, I haven't had an update, but it's amazing to see that people's energy take them in different directions. Lewis is involved very heavily in community gardening and in developing skill sharing through woodworking, green woodworking. Cody helped set up a community garden as well. He even helped try to, with the, what do we call it? It used to be the skills, Greeniversity. When Greeniversity was running, we tried to get people to give voluntary talks and sharing skills. Cody helped on that. Paulos and Mike have been helping with websites and trying to get communication and making little videos. It's fab to see people have gone off in their own little ways, and now we're all ready to sort of come back together and try and find a collective force to connect more with all of you and what you're doing, and try and help people to see where Cardiff Transition could go in the future, because it's only led by those who want to do stuff in the city. whether it's connect with people, run events, whether it's do activity, projects, whatever it happens to be, we want to work with people, connect people and sort of share the good stuff that's going on. I think we're about to welcome some more people in. No, maybe not, maybe? No. I'm getting excited, come on. Give me a few minutes, I'll get them in. So is there kind of any questions about maybe transition, what it is, where it's going, the history of, that I haven't covered? Because there's plenty of us in the room who can connect. I'm happy to take any questions now before. Go for it.
What would you say are the high points of what you've achieved in your existence?
In my existence?
No.
Well, I'm going to do my existence first because it's easy. This isn't in no way attached to sort of ego on it, but my journey took me in a different direction as well. I wanted to see if I can live and work more in transition, which was a question that was coming up through the Transition Network. How can we all survive within doing transition activities, because it's not all voluntary? So I developed my own business, which was what my other t-shirt was that I was wearing when I walked in, which had egg seeds. So I actually developed my own business based around transition principle. So for me, one of my high points was realising that I can take a concept of working in transition and realising I can actually survive, run a prosperous business, employ other people, and get more skill sharing out there. Within Cardiff Transition, one high point is we've had some amazing speakers come to the city and connect with people, really drawn a crowd. Another one is where we spoke around food and food security. And we had people who would never have come to a transition meeting, event and stuff before. It was their first one, they turned up all nervous, can we come in and all that. And it was amazing to have people connecting over almost food security. And then from that, we talked about setting up a project to look about growing more stuff in the community. So we created a project called Farm Cardiff and went out doing mapping walks and talks and linking with people. That went into schools. I ended up working with the university doing that and doing some in Cardiff. And then we took that concept out further. And that's kind of magical. That's linking up with that's now going full fruition. We're seeing more and more activity on community growing. There's an event on March the 17th for the Federation or Plas Cymru in Chapter, trying to see if we can do more street growing again. So that for me is a massive highlight.
Farm Cardiff, the maps,
Yeah,
there's
so-
a lot.
yeah.
A lot has come out. Food cities came out of the transition initiative. A lot of the works went into it.
Yeah, so Farm Cardiff was the map I was talking about there, but we've also got the Sustainable Cardiff map. You forget all the stuff you do over time. But working with Lewis, Oline, we had Jess. We paid for the WCVA database and stuff like that, but we realised the community knowledge of activity going on in Cardiff was greater than organisations who work at it.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. We asked people what projects are going on in the city, and we try to get them on a map. What organisations are on there? We try to get them on a map. It needs updating. We all know that. It takes a lot of time to connect. But it's amazing. Sustainable Cardiff is still out there, and we'll get the map up on the website. And so people can still see it, and hopefully we'll build on it. There's a great map which is building around food on the website now, which I believe Mike and Paulus have been heavily involved in. So well done, it's looking good. Mapping projects, go for it.
Cardiff Taft's Community Currency.
Yeah, it's loads of good stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, Cardiff Taft's another exchange currency which isn't using money, but people are trading through a token currency, Cardiff Tafts, and whether it's skills, labour, items, it's still happening, and they meet regularly, at least once a month, isn't
We meet once a month. actually.
Once a month, first Sunday?
Yeah.
First Sunday in Chapter, every month.
Next Sunday.
Coming up.
The coming Sunday.
This coming Sunday.
And the fact that's still going, that's voluntary run, and that's amazing, that's fantastic. Anybody else got a highlight from what Cardiff Transition's done?
Orchard Cardiff.
Sing for the supper, say it.
It's a microfunding project. We had our first one in here about 4 months ago, or something. And yeah, people come along. They have soup. They pay a door. They have soup. They vote on community projects, and the winning one gets all the money from the door, basically.
So that's come out of it. I know I was going to go into, Orchard Cardiff came up as a connection between the Federation of City Farms, Cardiff Transition, and another element, I never remember the third element. it's just mentioned too. But it was a mapping project where people could personally put their fruit trees on the city and share the waste fruit that they felt they couldn't use themselves. That's still going, and hopefully there's a new project on the horizon which will help expand that. Once I've had some news on it, I'll give you an update. It's getting close to news time. But Food Cardiff as well. There's a lot around food, but obviously Food Cardiff is a new sort of network around food that's connected a lot of organisations, different level, around the concept of food, whether it's poverty, whether it's trying to change national policy, whether it's trying to get business and providers linked up. There's Food Cardiff is doing amazing stuff, and actually from Cardiff we've managed to influence that and be members of it from the initial stage of the food charter, going along to meetings, helped form that food charter, bring it to a live event, and then help move that on into a network of people, and have always been present, making sure it's linked up with what the network may be thinking, where my personal, I'm one of the people who goes along to these meetings, so I feed into that. But we just had Welsh Government commit to £500,000 every year for the next 3 years on the summer holiday enrichment programme. And that's come from a connected approach within Cardiff of people interested in making food a priority. So there's loads of other amazing stuff has happened, but I think sums it up, it's not just one person, everybody's got their different angles, and within the network there's a chance to follow your own passions, your own energies to see what can happen. And one thing I can say over the years now is, just because an idea cannot always happen at the time in which you might want it, it's okay, at some point it will come around and people will find the energy to join in and support it. And that's come from personal experience. You can't always push things to have them happen straight away. Sometimes it's important to let them naturally get to where they need to, and the gravity within the city move towards it. But it is a privilege to be part of the network, and I am a transitioner. Not just got the t-shirt, I believe in it, it's what I am anyway, whether there was a group here or not, but I believe it's important to connect with all of you. And if I don't know you personally, I'm sorry, at some point we'll get to know each other better, and I hope there's some projects we can overlap in and do stuff together. So thank you all for coming.